everybody, it's Pete Carmasino here at Chaikin Analytics. This is our weekly show here on StockCharts TV called Halftime. And we kind of take a look at a lot of things typically that are going on. And typically our show kind of looks at how the Power Gauge works in conjunction with the ACP platform and looking back as to when it might have alerted you. Now, I get some comments and talking about, we're late or doing this or, maybe this isn't the time for what I was looking at. And truthfully, these are not financial recommendations. What we're doing is we're looking at how the Power Gauge could have helped you in the past, right, by looking at certain setups. So when you find two or three things, obviously oil or energy and, a lot of things, commodities in general have been in play. And you want to go back and see how could the Power Gauge system have alerted you to those particular items back when they were starting. So today we'll take a different spin. We're going to look at some names that might be alerting us to today's setups. And I'm going to do that basically on the fly, no script. I'm just going to kind of pop through some different ways on the ACP platform that can generate ideas, either by some predefined scans. We can look at the SCTR Leaders. There's about 4 of them in there that we can look at today, 3 of them that we rate, and we'll go over to the Chaikin platform to see how they've set up and where they set up. Maybe they set up months ago, or maybe they're setting up today. I don't know. I'm going on this on the fly. Let's see where it takes us. Let's take a look at the charts. All right. So just some setups here that I wanted to look at. So on StockCharts, and again, you guys are users of StockCharts. This is not a demo of StockCharts, but it is kind of alerting you where you can find certain things. So there's all kind of icons here. You can flip on these and take a look at predefined groups, right? And one that kind of caught my eye was the scooter, as you guys refer to it, SCTR Leaders. And there's 3 names that we rate. This one we don't rate because it's relatively new and it's an ETF. We don't rate it here on the ACP platform, and we actually don't rate it on the Chaikin platform because it's less than a year old. Reminder, if you see something that's not rated and it's an equity or U.S. equity that has been trading for a while, but less than 1 year, you're probably not going to see a rating. So just a little caveat there that you got to be aware of. So when we look at Occidental Petroleum, no kidding. So it's been a great leader, for months. And if I go back and look at the chart here, OXY, right? We've obviously seen some back and forth, very similar, almost identical to Exxon. If I pull up XOM, let's take a look at that one. Where you see that breakdown there, everything kind of went sideways at the end of the year. People just migrated toward growth. There was a lot of window dressing, you can call it whatever you want. But the point being was they were kind of avoiding energy. And so Exxon, which is the leader, obviously it's one of the heavily weighted names in a lot of the energy ETFs, but definitely in the XLE. And if I go to Occidental, so check it out. It's the same exact setup where the relative strength broke down, actually broke down a lot less really than Exxon, but it still was a breakdown, and then proceeded to make a move from 30 up to a high of, we'll call it 60, $59.60 is a high. So let's call it close to a double, 98% or something, whatever it was. But the point being is that when you start to see these relative strength changes and you get a bullish power gauge change. So if you were watching energy and you saw Occidental move from a neutral, which was actually a neutral rated, never got to neutral plus, to a bull, and the bull basically came in on, looks like the week of January 18th. It was pretty early on, right? We had a market sell-off on the 24th, but the bullish rating remained. If we go look at Occidental here, right, so you can take a look at, obviously this is a squeezed chart, but you start to see when this occurred, all right, really right here around the 24th, but the moving averages were crossing nicely. Everything was great. It tested, held, and continued, and did it again. So you've got an opportunity there to see that bullish rating change on the fly. Look at that. Everything is pinned, and you got financials really the only weakest one, likely due to valuation. I can't say that for sure, but if I go and look at Chaikin, and I open this up, let's look at financials. So I've got price to book is a little high. Price to sales is pretty neutral, but the price to book is really kind of weighing down that financial segment of our rating. It's not terrible, but it is what it is. Let's check out Vermilion Energy, VET. No, it doesn't. I don't think it's a veterinarian stock, but They've got an interesting name. It's not. It's oil and gas consumable fuels. It's in that particular sector. If you want to know what it does, obviously exploration, development of and production of petroleum and natural gas. Again, a very similar setup as Occidental. More of a smaller cap or a large small cap, really a small mid cap, so to speak. Not much of a yield, but definitely generating some return here. Again, a name like this was actually bucking the trend. How about this? Bucking the trend back between September and the end of the year. Even though it kind of broke down a little bit, the relative strength stayed strong. And there's your rating change once again from neutral to bullish right around the beginning of January. And that's really, we'll call it, let's see here, low average, call it a $12.50 stock that went all the way to almost 24. So again, another 90+% return on a name that you probably never heard of, right? I mean, this is a small cap, mid cap, again, kind of name, but that's an interesting area. So you can find these steps in here and then cross-reference them to the power gauge. Let's look at the next one. Let's see, where's my cursor? There it is. IVT, Inventrust Properties Corp. Now, not much of a very bullish or anything very bullish here on the power gauge, but it's neutral negative, and that tells you something right off the bat. What you need to know there right away, let's take a look, is this. That, wow, it is an odd looking chart. So we've got a sort of a screwy chart here, but my point to tell you about a neutral negative name, any neutral negative name, not just this one. What that means is it's a bearish name, fundamentally, the way we rate it, that has gone beneath its long-term trend, okay? Beneath its long-term trend. And what that means is, let me rephrase that. It's gone above its long-term trend. Scratch that from the record. Let me rephrase that. A neutral negative name is a name that has gone above its long-term trend, but it is a bearish, fundamentally rated name. So once it goes back below its long-term trend, it will flip to bearish. You need to know that because fundamentals may not be driving that particular name. That doesn't mean it's going to go down. What it means is that the market is choosing to ignore the underlying fundamentals. Okay, so we kind of go through here and we can see sector breadth and kind of see what's going on here. I mean, this is an interesting way to kind of view all of the names quickly, but it gets a little tight, so you got to kind of mess around and kind of look at some different things. I love the offense versus defense. I'm a big proponent of sports analogies here in the market, and obviously this is telling you that defense is on the field. Okay, and I want to get into that for a second. I want to go to our ETF comparison. And what is that showing us? That's showing us a couple of names up here. Now, obviously, energy has been sort of an outperforming sector on its own, but let's take energy out of the equation. The top three areas really are utilities, industrials, and healthcare, and then followed closely by consumer staples. Now, industrials and energy are kind of getting a boost to cyclical, right? People are moving away from growth to cyclical names. So it's getting a lot of attention. It's in the basket of performance. So the way that we rate or rank these is based off of this power gauge. And the power gauge tells us inside these particular ETFs, and this is a power bar, I should say. See that? It says power bar. Inside these ETFs, we've got a number of bullish names, neutral, and bearish names. So the ones that have the best ratio of bulls to bears are going to be ranked the highest. Ironically, here we are in a market that's been nothing less than volatile, certainly in a downtrend over 12% this year on the S&P down. And what's happening? People are migrating to utilities, healthcare, and staples. What do we know about them? They're defensive sectors. Okay? What did we find out here? Is offense on the field here or defense? Looks like defense. So automatically, our brains need to switch to go, okay, what should I be migrating to or should have been migrating to during the course of this year? Utilities, healthcare, and staples. Okay, so let's take a look at utilities. If I double click this, I could pull in some names on the utility sector here, and I can see exactly what's happening on the ETF, right? And then I can kind of go through and look at names like, Con Ed, right? Newark Metropolitan type utility, right? You've got incredible setup here. You've had the relative strength change somewhere around the 70, you call it $80 price, and it's gone up to 90. Is that a huge return? No, it's not negative, and the market's not performing well. So, you're up more than you're down, if depending upon where you bought it. My point being is there's plenty of opportunity in here to kind of go, look, I only got one alert here, and that's one that's moving. How about this one? PNW is moving from neutral to bullish. So if I double click this, we can pull it up. Let's take a look. Pinnacle West. It's in an Arizona Public Service Company. If I take a look at what's going on here, wow, I got a 4.6% dividend. I got a low PE. Obviously, that's sort of par for the course in a utility type company. And I got a mixed bag here, but I'm weighted to the bullish side, right? Any experts on this looking interesting? Everybody's kind of up. The rating trend is negative. Maybe if the rating trend increases, that could be another catalyst. I don't know. My point being is this chart looks interesting to me for a few reasons. One, it's set up from a money flow standpoint, right? You're getting decent money flow in the particular name. You're seeing a relative strength ratchet up much higher because why? We're in a defensive type environment. And you're seeing the rating kind of teeter back and forth between bullish, neutral, bullish. So what that's saying is, and it's really a good example, right? I didn't know this name was going to pop up today. It's a good example of how our power gauge never stops working. It recalculates. As things change, it's going to change. Now, it's not the high end of its band. It's not up big today, but any kind of pullback would maybe be an opportunity here. Again, it's not a guarantee, but maybe you use the middle band. That's the 21-day EMA, 21 EMA, exponential moving average. It's about $71, $72. It's a bit of a discount from where it is. My point being is you might get paid while you wait a little bit, but you just got to be careful here. Again, we don't know if utilities are going to continue to outperform. All we're trying to do is put a weight of the evidence in your favor. And so when you start to see this, you need to start digging into these, if XLK versus XLU is underperforming, that's the lead symbol. XLK is going down. XLU is doing better. Okay. Now, it doesn't have to be an absolute return, but in this case, it actually is. So XLU in general is up and performing better. But really from the start of the year, if I look at it, it's about even. And you had some pain along the way, right? So maybe not so much the index or the ETF itself. Look inside of the index and go see what's going on in there, right? So if I pull up PNW, just right here, right? I can see we've got an interesting setup. And when I pull up the power gauge, I know it's bullish and it's kind of bumping around a little bit and we're kind of checking this thing out. So, I love the idea here that being able to kind of look through, a lot of different things. I use some different areas of intraday signals, and ACP platform was really, really interesting to me. I think there's some really great opportunities here for you to use ACP and Chaikin together. But I just wanted to kind of give you, some a semblance of order of what you might want to be looking at, when you're looking at particular names or different ways to view the market. If it's an offensive versus defense, then dig into the names that are performing and try to go find bullish setups if you can. All right, everybody. That was, again, time flies. I could probably go on for another 10 minutes or so, but I apologize. I didn't get to the scans, but I kind of got caught up in offensive names versus defensive names, dug into the utility sector, and started to find some names that might be setting up. So you can do the same. Get the ACP platform. Obviously, you already have it. And then get the plugin for the Chaikin Analytics side and start using fundamentals in conjunction with technicals. Take care. We'll talk to you real soon.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're going to bring you daily content